You guys absolutely loved my last Transformers video looking at the brand new ENERGON universe fronted by Robert Kirkman and what it could mean for the future of Transformers. And so today we're going to look at every single character that we've seen on the promotional pictures and maybe a couple of hidden ones too, and I am going to predict their fate. So perhaps unsurprisingly, we're starting off with the Autobots and their leader Optimus Prime. Now, Optimus Prime's story is going to be the focal point of this series, in my opinion. I don't necessarily think we're going to go into the depth of individual characters like we necessarily got in IDW. I think we're going to go for a more of an ensemble cast approach throughout, so less one-shots perhaps of individual characters and more of long Transformers series with maybe a few mini-series here and there, but I think Optimus Prime will be the main focal point for the reader throughout this whole entire journey. And what I also think is that he is going to die. And if you are a long-time Transformers fan, that might actually not be as bold of a prediction as it might maybe come across to begin with, because Optimus Prime always dies. In every single media, maybe bar a few, he's always bit the bullet one way or another. And it just so seems to happen that the leader of the Autobots always sacrifices himself in either a very, very stupid way or maybe quite a heroic way. Either way, he goes. And some people are definitely growing tired of it. For me, it's one of my favourite tropes because it allows someone new to step into the leader of the Autobots, which is a position that really is, absolutely owned by Optimus Prime. And you think of the Autobots, you think of Optimus Prime. You think of the leader, you think of Optimus Prime. You think of Transformers, you think of Optimus Prime. So for him to be taken out of the equation makes for a very interesting mix. And what I do think is that he is going to die, but not for a while. I think they'll keep him around for enough of a time to let us all get comfortable with the idea of him being there. And following that, they will give us maybe a surprise death and we will see him come back. Because once again, if he dies, he always comes back. So it's Optimus Prime. But when he does come back, it will be yet another surprise. And it may cause a bit of unbalance because I think we're going to grow to like whoever it is that takes the Autobots forward from there. And I hope that it isn't Hot Rod, someone who isn't even confirmed to be in the comics so far, but traditionally has been the person to take the reins, either him or Bumblebee, but we'll get to Bumblebee later. But I think Optimus Prime is going to be the main character for the majority of this series, with a little gap in the middle where he goes missing, has a big comeback, and that also allows for him to have his own story arc when he comes back, because it's going to open up a lot of questions, and we're going to want the answers. So let's waste no more time and go on to Bumblebee. Spoilers for the first issue, which has already come out. By the time this video comes out, issue 2 will almost be out. But anyway, in the first issue, Bumblebee died. This is quite shocking because Bumblebee, in the last 10 years definitely, has become a major player in the Transformers franchise. His popularity has really, really risen to the point where he's almost as popular, if not more popular, than Optimus Prime in a modern day fan's eyes. He was the star of the Michael Bay movies. He's been the star of a lot of the animated shows recently, including, for example, Cyberverse, where the whole first season was about him. And in IDW, he had quite a big role as well, so it makes sense for him to be a big player in Skybound as well. However, what's interesting is in Rise of the Beast, they killed off Bumblebee very, very early. They did bring him back because you can't kill Bumblebee in a massive movie franchise, he just makes them too much money. But they did have him missing for the majority of the movie, and that was because Hasbro are starting to get the feeling that the fans are being fed a bit too much Bumblebee. And to be fair, it was refreshing in Rise of the Beasts to not see him, and a lot of people agreed with that. And when he did come back, that scene where he jumps out the helicopter was probably my favourite scene in the whole movie, because the missing him allows you to appreciate him more. So sometimes you have to kind of say goodbye to Bumblebee to appreciate him, especially when we have had him forced down our throats so many times. And I think he's coming back. I know that Daniel Warren Johnson, who is both author and artist of this Transformers comic, has said that he's gone, that's it, he's dead, because for two reasons. Number one, Hasbro don't want more Bumblebee, they are a bit tired of him. And number two, apparently, he doesn't like drawing Bumblebee. But we know Cliffjumper is going to be in it, who is the same as Bumblebee but red. So either Cliffjumper's dead in issue 2, early predictions, or Bumblebee's coming back. And I would be surprised to see Bumblebee be dead for the whole entire series and just be alive in issue 1 of the entire ENERGON universe. He just feels like too much of a big player. But then you've got to ask the question, if I'm saying Optimus Prime is going to die and come back, is it kind of beating a dead horse if you do the same thing for Bumblebee? Keeping Bumblebee dead for the whole entire series would be a massive shock value move. It really would kind of drive home the impact of that first issue, because this is a A-star character in the Transformers history dying in issue 1 issue one of who knows how many, issue one of a universe that will go on for years and years. So to have him in it and not even say a line, not even say one word before he dies, we just see a photo of him lying on the floor and then a photo of him dead. That is gutsy, and I actually wouldn't be too mad about it. It allows you to look at more characters more. Cliffjumper, for example, traditionally always died in that first issue. I mean, look at Transformers Prime. If you've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson voicing Cliffjumper, of course he's going to die. Do you know how much money that would be for a whole season worth of that? So if we could have Cliffjumper in the comics, sticking around for a while, instead of Bumblebee, maybe. Look, I'm just saying I wouldn't be too mad. And 10-year-old me would be attacking myself for this, because 10-year-old me loved Bumblebee, but he has been fed down our throats a bit too much in my opinion. So let's just take a back seat and say that he probably will come back. However, if he doesn't, I actually think it's a pretty good move. Next up is Wheeljack, who is someone we did not see in issue 1, so you have to assume will appear in the upcoming issues. He was obviously on the big promotional photo that I'm looking at all the characters from, and he was one of the people who were in that photo but not in issue 1. And I think there are two ways they can go with Wheeljack. Someone who also appeared in the Rise of the Beasts movie on the big screen, obviously a bit of a different form to what we're used to, and the comic has gone for that traditional G1 approach. Some people have mixed feelings about it. I love it. It's classic. It works. Just keep it how it looks good, you know, in my opinion. That is Wheeljack. If you're going to do a new style, give us a new character. Not that I don't mind the Pablo Wheeljack from Rise of the Beast. I think it's pretty cool, but I prefer the Wheeljack we've got now. And I think they're going to go for the classic G1 character of Wheeljack as well, where he makes quite a lot of funny, wacky inventions. Some really work quite well, some maybe not so much. But the question is, will he die like his G1 counterpart? And his G1 counterpart did die. He was one of the many, many casualties in Transformers 1986, the movie. He was one of the characters who did get a death on screen, unlike some, like, for example, Huffer, who did not get a death on screen. That being said, we did just see his lifeless corpse on the floor. So if you know, you watched season 1 of G1, you watched season 2 of G1, your Saturday morning cartoon, and you loved Wheeljack as a kid, he was your favourite character, you had the toy. Nah, you don't see him in the movie. You do see his dead body, though. I don't think they will kill Wheeljack. I think that the deaths to the main cast will be limited. You want to keep a good core cast. I think he's going to be a secondary character, because he wasn't in that first issue, which already implies not a lack of importance per se, but he isn't a main great character. I think he's going to be that guy who sticks at the lab, kind of the alternative to Shockwave, which is what he always has been. Shockwave did appear in Void Rivals. If you haven't seen that, check it out. That is the ENERGON Universe's other comic that is ongoing at the moment. And Shockwave made a small cameo appearance in there. A little bit of a spoiler, but not really that relevant to the story. But we just know his current whereabouts. And I think he's going to stick around there, and I think Wheeljack will stick around with the Autobots on Earth, but as a background character, just giving them a little wacky invention, or a good invention, whenever they might want it. Next up is a very interesting one. We've got Ratchet, who once again is looking like his G1 counterpart, but I don't think they're going to go for the G1 personality on this one. They've been sticking very traditional G1, and in the notes for Void Rivals and the notes for Transformers, that's very, very clear. That's where they're getting their inspiration from. That's where they're deriving a lot of their stories, a lot of their character arcs, and a lot of their character basic personalities before they build upon them themselves. Ratchet in the G1 cartoon was not that important past the first season. He wasn't. I know he's an iconic character, but he wasn't that important past the first season. He kind of just appeared when they had an injured Autobot who wasn't allowed to die because it was a Saturday morning cartoon and the horrific movie that killed everyone wasn't out yet. So they stuck him in the back of Ratchet. They stuck him in Ratchet's ambulance mode and threw the back of him. Ratchet wheeled him away in his ambulance mode and it was fine. Nothing weird happened. It was normal. And that is all Ratchet did, really. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, maybe the first couple of episodes, you know, he didn't do much else of note compared to some of the other characters, like Bumblebee, for example, who was the human connection in the cartoon. In the comics, however, Ratchet, for whatever reason, after his first appearance as a lifeless machine of death, he became a pretty big player, and he actually had a lot of one-on-one battles with Megatron and came out the other side of the majority of them. He had a much bigger role in the comics, especially the UK ones. Simon Furman, the author of those, must have had a real fancy towards him. And he became a massive character there. And a lot of his popularity in the UK especially did come from them early days comics. And I can see myself looking at a Ratchet in this comic that's going to take a lot of them traits from the comic of the past into this one. It's the same medium. It's where we saw Ratchet arguably at his best, and I think we're going to get a little callback with a classic Ratchet one-on-one with Megatron, and I think Ratchet is going to win. And I know what you're thinking early doors, Megatron, he's not even in this comic. We'll get on to him. But not quite yet, because first we're looking at Arcee, another one of the characters who is in the promotional photo but did not appear in the first issue. And I really, really, really hope Arcee is not a background character. Arcee's IDW version, whether you like it or not, was a different and unique take on the character, where they took someone that is not just there, but definitely appealing to a female audience as a female Autobot, especially back in the day, and they kind of put her there. Here we go, we've got a female Transformer, and that's almost all they did with her. She just became a physical icon, something to look at, as opposed to a fleshed out character. In the IDW comics, they gave her a very distinct personality, a massive character arc, and I think that is the way to go. I think whatever you do with Arcee in this comic, whether you go full psycho like IDW, or whether Skybound keep it a bit more traditional and go for a character who is a good fighter, a good scout, but a bit more of a background character, I think to give her a bit of uniqueness. I don't know whether she'll live, whether she'll die. I think it's way too early to say that for someone who you haven't even seen appear yet and doesn't have necessarily a history in Transformers that's really deep in terms of, does she win big battles, does she die all the time, you know, like the Optimus Prime and the Cliffjumpers and the Ratchets. But I think she's got such potential to be a really big character, and definitely, by the way, from a female point of view, when you're going to a brand new Transformers comic, a brand new ENERGON universe where you're going to want to bring new fans in, you have to appeal to both sides. Obviously, Transformers in the 80s, because the 80s was a very different time, appealed to a male audience. But Arcee is the perfect bridge to appeal to both sets of audiences here, because Transformers is a franchise that should be for men and for women and for anything in between. It isn't something that is for one type of person. It should be for whoever wants to enjoy it, because that is what it is. It's a story. So if you're going to have to use a device such as the female Autobot to get another type of audience in, make her a really great character that you can look at and go, she's not just a female Autobot, she is a brilliant character who's got a very unique personality trait and a great story arc. And Arcee as a character in the past has got all the basic fundamentals to pull this off. So I really, really hope Skybound get it right with Arcee. I can see her being a great background character, one of the ones that kind of sit on the side of the fence, aren't the main person, but do a really good job when they're included. For example, Glenn from The Walking Dead, who is another one of Robert Kirkman's creations, he was never the main character, but he was a fan favourite. Everyone loved him, myself included. And when he eventually died, I would say spoilers, that's like 10 years ago now, so come on. When he eventually died, that was a massive blow. So if Arcee is going to be a side character all the way throughout this and eventually die down the road, make it so that her death is impactful. So last for the Autobots, and hopefully not least, we have Cliffjumper. We kind of touched on him earlier. He always dies early on. Bumblebee gets the spotlight. Is it going to swap around? And I think yes. I think it's a brilliant twist where he's got that familiar mould, that familiar feel to him as Bumblebee, but he's not Bumblebee at all. He's a very different character. And I think he's going to be the right-hand man. He did not appear in issue 1. I think they're going to build it up slowly. Issue 1 was goodbye to Bumblebee, at least for now. Issue 2, maybe issue 3, we see Cliffjumper, and I think he's going to be the right-hand man. I think he's going to grow as a character all the way through the series. I think he's making it right to the end. I think he's that little bot that you don't think is ever going to make it. He's just waiting for that one big blast from Starscream or Megatron to finish him off, but he always finds a way to survive. I think this series is Cliffjumper's reckoning in the Transformers universe, and I think following the end of the ENERGON universe, we will all look back and say, Cliffjumper, what a character. At least I hope so. Please don't kill him off early on. Give him a chance. If Bumblebee's dead, give Cliffjumper a chance. We all want it. We all want it. At least I think we all want it. I definitely want it. If you want it, let me know in the comments. So now we're moving on to the Decepticons, and we're starting things off with Starscream, who as of issue 1 is in control of the Decepticons. And I'm just going to go out and say it, I love Starscream, by far my favourite Decepticon, and when he's in charge of the Decepticons, when he finally gets one over on Megatron and becomes the leader, it's my favourite trope ever. Whether he lives, whether he dies, whether he succeeds or fails as a leader, I love the way he works so differently to Megatron. They're such different minds, going for the same goal there or thereabouts, but such different minds, and watching them work back to back against each other is something of brilliance to me, and this is what I think is going to happen. I think Starscream is going to be the leader of the Decepticons for a pretty decent while, and I think he's going to have quite a few victories, quite a few losses, and we're going to slowly and gradually over time see the other Decepticons start to lose trust in him. They didn't have full trust in that first issue, and they even went to mention Megatron's name, and Starscream very quickly shut them down, and I think he's going to have a few good wins early doors here and build up their trust. We're going to slowly see the cracks start to form over the next maybe even one whole year worth of comics, and when Megatron finally makes that amazing first appearance in this comic, and I hope they hold off long enough, I hope they don't rush into it, give it time to breathe, give this current status quo time to breathe, and when Megatron turns up it will be amazing, and I hope he gets Starscream out. I hope he banishes him from the Decepticons. That the backstory is his fault that Megatron's not here in the first place. He's done some of his classic Knieveling. He's the reason why Megatron is in whatever state he's in, and he's in charge. So he gets Starscream out of the Decepticons, and then we see Starscream become that third party figure who actually poses a threat to both sides, a little bit like what he was like in Transformers Prime, where he did actually pose a little bit of a threat. And then following that, maybe we go into a Starscream's ghost kind of thing, where someone gets him killed but he just won't die. Or we see Starscream go to the Autobots and sacrifice himself for the Autobots and become good, which I love that trope as well. But you have to play it right. You have to build the story up right. You have to give it time to breathe and let it happen across a little period of time, as opposed to really, really quickly. And then the payoff will be so, so good. But I really hope they make Starscream a force to be reckoned with in this one, and not just someone to bully, someone to laugh at. I hope they show that he actually is powerful, because then when he is powerful, it makes his upbringing and his downfall so much better. So next up we have Soundwave and his cassettes as well, Rumble, Ravage, Laserbig, all the above. I think he's going to be a very strong character. If Starscream does have his failings, and especially if Starscream is played off as a bit of a joke character, which I hope they don't, but if he is, Soundwave is the opposite, where he's strong, he's cold, he's calculated. And I think we can expect to see a lot of big victories or a lot of close calls that were saved by Soundwave in this series. I think he's going to be a very big character. I think he's making it all the way to the end. Maybe not his cassettes, because when his cassettes did die in IDW and we saw how that affected Soundwave, that made for some really great moments. So maybe they try and replicate that a little bit. Maybe they try and go their own way, who knows. But I do think he makes it all the way to the end, and I think he's a really important character. One thing about him is that you do never quite know what he's thinking. He has that cold, robotic, almost emptiness about him. So I do think he's a mysterious character, and I don't know where they're going to take him in terms of plot, but I do have a feeling he's going to be a very strong character who wins a lot of battles, is very, very hard, and that one of the Autobots really fear as well. I think he's going to be a threat in this series, and you know what, I hope he is too, because the Decepticons being a bigger threat mean when the Autobots get wins, it feels even better. So the only other Decepticon in this poster is Skywarp, which I think is a sign that the whole Skywarp Thundercracker thing is leaning in Skywarp's favour. And I think this is a little bit like the Bumblebee Cliffjumper situation. In IDW especially, and a little bit of games and books and other stuff as well, Thundercracker has been the one of the two to get the spotlight, to get his own story arc. I mean, his one in IDW was amazing. And Skywarp has been pushed to the sidelines quite a lot, especially with what we saw in issue 1 with Thundercracker. I don't think that he's going to be the main guy. I think Skywarp is going to have quite a big role. He does have that ability to teleport, which is a really unique and cool ability in Transformers. Not every Transformer has an ability. In IDW, they call them outliers. Whatever they do with it in the ENERGON universe, I don't know. We haven't even seen him confirmed to use it just yet, but it's a really cool, unique and distinctive trait about Skywarp's character, and I think they're going to really play into that and make Skywarp the guy for this series as opposed to him and Thundercracker. And you know what, good, once again with the whole Cliffjumper thing, give someone else a time to shine and separate yourself. When we talk about IDW Transformers and we talk about Skybound Transformers, things like Optimus Prime are always going to follow the same kind of beaten path because it works. People like Megatron can vary. IDW especially did a really good job of Megatron in my opinion. Skybound have to find them. They have to find them small things that should just follow the status quo, and then they change it. And if Skywarp is one of them, and if Cliffjumper is one of them, good. Make it so when we talk about them, we know the differences and we can differentiate them strongly. And I hope Skywarp makes it all the way to the end, or if not, when he does die, it's late on, it's really impactful, and we think, wow, that character was one that I really enjoyed reading. What a great story arc. I briefly mentioned Shockwave earlier, who isn't in that poster, and now spoilers for Void Rivals if you haven't read it properly yet. He is currently on Cybertron, which we saw. Obviously, we know everyone else right now is on Earth. Shockwave is still on Cybertron, and he is having massive issues with Energon. He said he can't even feed himself and his other Decepticons, let alone take on a prisoner. So that implies that A, he's still on Cybertron and leading Cybertron at the moment. B, it implies there are other Decepticons on Cybertron. So it looks like we've had the thing where the Autobots escaped on the Ark, the Decepticons chased them because the Decepticons have taken over Cybertron. And I think two things. I think, first of all, Shockwave is going to be a character that we see intermittently throughout. Never a crazy big character other than big, massive, endgame feeling villain arcs where he's the main guy I want to take down. I think he's going to pop up all around these series, and I think his hands, his fingerprints are going to be plastered all over the events and all over these series, but from a very in the shadows point of view, which I love, by the way. I think that's going to be really, really awesome if they make this pay off really slowly and we see mysteries and dots click together all over the place. And obviously we know nothing about Shockwave right now other than that he is on Cybertron. However, based on the fact that he had his first appearance in Void Rivals, my early prediction is whatever's going on in Void Rivals between the two sides, I predict that Shockwave is up there orchestrating all of it like puppets. Who knows if it happens? That's my prediction. And last but absolutely not least is Megatron. Where is he? Why is he not in issue 1? Why is he not in the poster? Why did they mention his name and Starscream shut them down? The honest answer is, I'm not sure. I've played back and forth with this a few times as I was planning this video and I was planning out my predictions for each character, and there's so many ways they can go with Megatron. He could be dead. He could have lost his powers for some reason. He could be really weak, really frail, injured, on the verge of death maybe, due to something Starscream's done. He could be trapped on Cybertron. He could be waiting for a space bridge to open up to go and get his Decepticons back. We just don't know. So this is one that I'm going to kind of shun a little bit. There's so many possible ways to go with Megatron, I don't think I can predict it. But what I do predict is this time, Megatron is the final boss, if you will. IDW had Megatron as their final boss in phase 1 with All Hell Megatron, and then after that they went a different route with him, a really brilliant route, a really great story, that one, the whole James Roberts Warner Meets the Ice story, absolutely phenomenal. And then by the time the main villain came about, the Unicron, Megatron was helping in a way, and I hope if they don't do Unicron, or excluding Unicron, let's say, I hope Megatron is that big boss. I hope it goes, you know, Starscream, Shockwave, maybe something else, maybe something from Void Rivals, maybe, I don't know where from, but I hope that they don't use Megatron's big battle too early, because another one will feel worthless, they won't do it, or they'll change his character arc, because you can't do the same thing twice. So when we have that big massive showdown with Megatron, don't chuck it in the first 6 issues of Transformers, don't chuck it in the first 20, make it endgame, make it build up, have small bits here and there, have Megatron versus Ratchet, have Megatron versus Cliffjumper, Megatron versus Optimus Prime, with an army of Autobots here and an army of Decepticons here, taking each other on. Keep that right till the end. The only thing you should do after that, in my opinion, is Unicron. And if they do it like that, and they have these big, massive set-piece moments, I can see the ENERGON Universe, which has smashed it so far, continuing to smash it with this Transformers series that so far we all seem to be loving. And so they are my predictions on the Transformers Skybound ENERGON Universe characters. Do you agree with my predictions? If so, let me know in the comments below, or drop your own predictions in there. I would love to see what you guys think about these characters. Thank you so much for my support on the last video. It smashed the expectations I thought I would get for views. If you give this video a like and comment, and maybe even subscribe, it would mean so much to me and really help this channel to grow. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you all in another video next week. Bye bye.